The Amazing Johnathan is with us. Now, I don't know whether to believe this next guy or not, because you came out and all of a sudden your arm came off. I've just been told that Reg Lipson, who is our resident marine biologist expert here on the show, has broken his hand or his arm or whatever.
It's just a gag we've been working on.
Okay, well, let's try it out with Reg. Please welcome Reg Lipson, ladies and gentlemen. So it's no joke?
No, it's for real, Bert.
What did you do?
Well, fell over in a boat and had a lot of heavy diving gear on, of course, and as I fell a fair bit of weight, put my hand out and cracked my wrist.
I tell you what, Johnathan does a lot of very, very close, intricate work with a hammer that he's got here. Would you like me to do some work on it, Reg?
Please, no.
Isn't that amazing? And actually, I suppose you can sue or do whatever. Certainly you'll get compensation because you're in the line of duty, weren't you?
Well, I was, but I don't know that I'm too worried about it, to be quite honest. My gills are drying out. My wife said I'm getting in a bad mood, Bert. That's the worst.
Well, have a glass of water, do anything you want to do. What have you got for us today, Reg?
Well, I thought I've brought in what I think is the most beautiful corpse in the world, Bert. Yes, I mean, we've talked about zombies before, so I thought we'd bring in something that's really beautiful, and it's actually this Venus flower basket sponge skeleton, and it's made of glass, and the animal's been making it like that for 600 million years, and the whole thing is composed of glass, and the sponge secretes that material inside its own body.
600 million years?
600 million years.
How do you know? I mean, it's not marked anywhere. How do you know they've been doing it that long?
Well, we've got fossils of ones that we can age that are so old, and they're one of the rare animals that use glass as a building material, and certainly very beautiful. We have to go down quite deep to get them, Bert. That's not what it looks like in nature. If they flick the slide up for us, we'll show you what they look like. This is in the Solomon Islands.
Right.
And they're all covered in flesh, and they're down about 150 feet. We have to go down a fair way to get them.
What are they made for, Reg? What's the purpose for nature?
It's the skeleton. Yes, it's actually the skeleton that gives the animal support, and the sponge filters food through itself, and as it does, some little tiny shrimps go inside its body, so it takes in food, and there's a little special shrimp, and it grows inside there, a male and female, and then they can't get out. So they spend...
How do they fill in the time?
Well...
Obviously. Yeah.
And that is actually given to Japanese couples in a traditional wedding as a symbolism of the eternity of marriage. Right. Sort of trapped for life, I suppose. I'm not sure.
What do you mean? This is given to them, or a couple of prawns? This is actually...
No, that is actually given to them.
Yes, it looks very fragile, Bert. Can I...
Must be very...
I've taken these out of my dryer.
Ah, dear me.
It's a beautiful thing.
Great.
In your hands, it looks very, very funny for some reason, yeah. We've got a second one here. Is there something you can do with a...
Okay, who's got the red cape? We'll have a...
Reg, you said very deep you have to go for these?
Yes, about 100, 150 feet, Bert, and that presents us with some problems because we often suffer that problem called rapture of the deep.
Yeah.
And we get drunk, actually, on just nitrogen in the air, and if we behave stupidly down there, of course, we can die, but I've seen people become temporarily blind at 150 feet.
What causes that again, Reg?
It's the nitrogen in the air in our tank, which is a normal component of air, but when you breathe it at high pressure like we have to at depth, then it actually affects the brain and you become drunk. So you are not in control of your equipment and that like you should be.
And what's the purpose then if you happen to get an attack of that? You've got to be brought up very, very slowly, and if it's really serious, you've got to be placed in a what do you call it? A dome.
Decompression.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's actually another problem caused by nitrogen called the bends.
Oh, two separate things.
Two separate problems. This one is a drunkenness. It's called rapture of the deep or euphoria. It's a beautiful feeling. I mean, drug addicts would pay a lot of money to get this sort of feeling. But the trouble is we lose control of things, you see. And as I said, this girl went blind and another one started doing somersaults at 150 feet. Now, you're right out of your tree if you're doing somersaults at 150 feet.
And you're doing those somersaults because the lack of nitrogen causes that, doesn't it?
And you feel so beautiful, like nothing could go wrong with you down there.
I can hear gasps coming from the band area. It sounds absolutely wonderful. Do you do any diving at all, Johnathan?
No, I will, though, yes.
Okay,
how do you get one of these tanks?
Back to our little friends here. What purpose do they have in the overall story of nature, Reg?
What, the sponges themselves? They are filterers, so they feed by filtering. I don't know that they actually have a purpose, but the way they live is to filter, so they keep the seawater clean and take material out of it. and there's large numbers of them in the sea. It's such a beautiful thing. I think it's just one of the greatest creations ever.
Because we're learning so much more about the sea as time goes on, maybe some of those books and some of those movies that were made in years gone by could come to fruition. I mean, maybe in times to come we'll live under the sea, or some of us will.
There'll be no doubt about that, Bert. It's already happening, and it will happen. The Cousteaus are involved in designing an underwater city now, and it will happen. I think by the year 2000 you'll find there'll be people living beneath the sea. Certainly within the lifetime of my children it will happen.
Well, describe how they're going to live.
Well, they'll have to live in these large habitats, and they'll have to be supplied with air to breathe, and the reason we'll be down there is that there is so much food, or we will be able to grow so much food. In Tasmania they are now conducting courses which are worldwide and famous for growing mussels and oysters and things from the sea, called aquaculture courses, and Australia is one of the leading nations in that. So it's a bit of a silent thing that's going on.
Yeah. So it means that in the case of an estranged family or whatever, if the kids want to go and see Dad, they've got to go fishing with them.
That's well, my wife says my family's like that already, Bert.
Yeah. Well, it really... Actually, the next time you do the show, Reg, what I'd like you to do is just to describe for us that sort of living and what we can expect, because I'm sure there are many people watching the show today who aren't aware just how close we are to that situation. Would you consider living under the water?
No, but I knew with Jimmy Hoffa and the Mafia in the United States that they've always have people under the sea already, and it started in America years ago.
Yeah, that's how the new civilization began.
Yes.
Reg, thank you for your time. It's great to have you on the show. Reg Lipson, ladies and gentlemen.